Welcome back to Monster Tamer, a 2D Pokemon-like RPG created Phaser 3. If you missed the previous videos, there'll be links in the video description to the source code to this point, as well as complete source code for this video. There'll also be a link to the previous videos if you'd like to catch up. So let's get started. Alright, so next we need to go ahead and add in some game objects for our volume here. So for our volume, what we want to try to emulate is a slider. And basically as the player presses the left and right keys, this would move the dial on our slider. It would have a text game object that would have the value that's currently displayed. And so to do this, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and create a basic rectangle that's very small, and that's going to be the middle bar for our slider. So what we'll do is we'll do this, add rectangle. And so for our rectangle game object, our X position will be 420, and we'll have 312 for our Y position. Then for our width and height, what we want to go ahead and do is we want 300 pixels, and we only want it to be 4 pixels tall. Finally, for our color, we're going to go ahead and do white, so we'll do 0x, FF, FF, FF. Then we want to go ahead and we're just going to set alpha to 1, and then we're going to go ahead and do our origin. So for our origin, we'll go 0 and then 0.5. And then that way our origin starts on the far left, but it'll still be in the middle for our Y value. All right, so now we have our slider bar. So what we need to do is go ahead and create our cursor, which would be just another rectangle that's going to move as the player updates the slider. So for that, we're going to want to store that game object on our class so we can update its position. So what we'll do is we'll make a new property, and we're going to call this volume options menu cursor. And we'll set that equal to another rectangle. So we'll do this.add rectangle. Now this one, we want to be at position 710 and then 312 for our Y value. And then we'll have 10 by 25 to make a small rectangle. And we will do 0x FF 22222222. And we'll have 1, and we'll go ahead and call our set origin, and we will do 0 and 0.5, so similar to what we did for our big rectangle. Let's go ahead and add this property to our class real quick. So we'll come up to the top of our class. And so for our menu cursor, this is going to go ahead and be our rectangle. So we'll copy and we'll update. Then if we go ahead and save, we should now see our red rectangle here on our slider. So now we're just going to go ahead and add in a text game object so we can see what the actual percentage is. So we'll make a new property, and we're going to call this volume option value text, and we'll do this.add.text. And so for our text, we'll do 760 for our X, 295 for our Y, and we'll start off and we'll display 100%. So when our slider's all the way over to the right, it'll be 100. All the way to the left, it would be 0%. And let's go ahead and add in our options text style. And let's add that property to our class. Copy this. And we're going to change this to a text game object. All right, if we save, we should see our new text display next to our slider. All right, so next up, we're going to have our menu color. And so for our menu color, what we want to do is we want to display 2 buttons to show the player they can go back and forth to select various colors. And we're going to keep this pretty simple. We're just going to display a number instead of like the name of the color. So it'll be like a 1, 2, and 3 for the time being. However, for these buttons, we're going to go ahead and we need to add a new asset to our game. So let's go ahead and jump over to our asset keys, and let's go to our UI assets. And we're going to add a brand new cursor that we imported before. And so we're going to call this cursor white. And we'll go ahead and update our value. So let's jump over to our preload scene so we can load this asset. So we'll go to reload in our other UI assets. Let's copy our line for reloaded in our regular cursor. And we're going to do our cursor white. And the file name is going to be cursor_white PNG. So then what we should be able to do is back in our options scene, let's go ahead and try adding our image game object. So we'll come down to our frame options and we'll do this.add.image. And so for our left button, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll do 530, and for our Y value, we'll do 352. Then we need to provide our asset name, so we'll have our UI asset keys, our cursor white, And then we're going to go ahead and do set origin, and we are going to do 1, 0. And then we'll go ahead and call set scale. And let's scale this by 2.5. And then we need to go ahead and call the set flip x method, and we'll go ahead and set that to true. All right, so now when our game saves, we should see our new button appear on our screen. And so what we did here is we set our origin over to the far right. And so that way when we position it, it should be aligned with our X value provided. Then we went ahead and scaled it up a little bit because it was quite small. And then finally we called flip X because our cursor always points to the right and we just want it to point to the left for our left button. So now what we can do is let's copy that line of code. We're going to go ahead and add it, and this will be for our right. So for our right, we want to go ahead and set this to 660. Same Y value for our origin. We're going to go ahead and leave that at 0, 0. Then we'll keep the same scaling, but we do not need to go ahead and call the flip because it's already facing to the right. All right, so then what we would do is in between our two buttons here, we go ahead and display the current frame text. And so for us to go ahead and do that, we're going to go ahead and add a new property, and we'll call this selected menu color text game object. We'll set it equal to this.add.text. And what we'll do is we'll do 590 for our X value, so it's between our two buttons. We'll do 350 for our Y value. And then we're going to do an empty string, and we'll do our options text style. And let's go ahead and add our property to our class. So we'll come up to the top of our class, and this is another text game object, so we'll just copy that and paste. All right, just to validate it's working, let's go ahead and change this to 1, and perfect. All right, so with our frame options, our last thing we need to go ahead and do is display our bottom info container that'll give the player info on what the options actually do. And so what we'll do is we'll have option, let's just update our comments. So this will be option details container. And so what we'll do is we'll make a new property. We'll call this info container. And we're going to set that equal to our 9-slice main container. And we're going to create a new 9-slice container from our current instance. We'll pass in our scene, pass in our option menu width because we want it to be the same width as our parent container here. And we only want this one to be 100 pixels tall. So real quick, let's add that container. So we come up to our class, let's add that in. And let's just copy our type for our main container. Go ahead and paste that. And so now our info container is added to our scene, and now we just need to go ahead and update its position. So what we'll do is we'll do our info container, we'll call set X, and so for our X, we'll do 100, so it's aligned with our other one. And then for our Y, what we want to go ahead and do is we want to take our overall height of our scene and subtract 110. That way we have a little bit of padding between the bottom and this container and between our main container and the info container. So now inside our container, we want to go ahead and add a text game object so we can add some text. So we'll make a new property because we'll need to update this text as the player selecting new options. And so we'll do selected option info message text game object, and we'll set that equal to this.add.text. And so for this, we'll want to go ahead and position this at 125 and then 480. And what we'll want to do is we'll just go ahead and place an empty string for the time being. And then so what we'll want to go ahead and do for our styling, we're going to go ahead and copy our options text style. So we'll use our spread operator to copy our object. Then we're going to go ahead and add a new property, and this is going to be for our word wrap. And so with our word wrap, we just want to make sure our text stays within our container here and stays away from our edges. So we're going to have it wrap around in case our text is really large. And so for our word wrap, we're going to apply the width property. So we'll go ahead and take our overall width of our scene, and we're just going to subtract 250 from it so it stays within our container size. Then real quick, we'll go ahead and add in our new game object. We'll go ahead and add in our new property. And so let's just copy our type, go ahead and paste it, and come back down. And so now for our text, let's just put in test, and we'll see test is now added to our container. All right, and so for our text that we want to display here, what we're going to do is we're going to make a new object to keep track of all of our options, and then the text that should be associated with that option. And so to do that, let's come to the top of our class, and what we'll do is we'll make a new variable, do const. We're going to call this option menu option info message. We'll set that equal to our object.freeze. And inside here for our object, we're going to want to go ahead and define each of our options. And so we'll have our text speed. We'll have our battle scene, our battle style. We'll have sound, volume. We'll have our menu color. And then we'll have confirm if we go to our close button. And then what we'll want to do for our objects, we'll just add in our text string that we want to show. And so for text speed, we'll do choose one of 3 text display speeds. For our battle scene, what we'll do is we'll do choose to display battle animations and effects or not. For battle style, we'll go ahead and do choose to allow your monster to be recalled between rounds. For sound, we'll do choose to enable or disable the sound. Volume, choose the volume for the music and sound effects of the game. Menu color, we'll do choose one of the 3 menu color options. And then finally for confirm, we will say save your changes and go back to the main menu. All right, so with our new object, what we'll do is we'll jump back down to our text game object for our info container, and let's just add in a default value, and we will do text speed as our first option. All right, so the last thing we're going to go ahead and do on our option scene for the time being is we're going to add in a cursor, and this cursor is just going to be a rectangle that's going to highlight which option we are currently on, so then that way the player knows what option they're updating. So to go ahead and do this, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new rectangle to our scene, and we're going to store this in a new property. We're going to call this options menu cursor, and we'll set it equal to this.add.rectangle. And so for our rectangle, we'll start off at 110 and 70 for our position. And then for our width, we're going to want to take our option menu width, and we're going to subtract 20 so we have some padding. And then for our height, we're just going to go ahead and do 40 pixels. So this will be in between our 55 that we have our text currently spaced between. And then we need to go ahead and provide our color. So what we'll do is we'll do 0x and we'll do white. So X, FF, FF, FF. And we are going to set our fill alpha to 0. We'll do our set origin to 0. And we're going to set our stroke style. And so with our stroke style, this is just going to give us a border for our rectangle. And because we set our alpha to 0, we won't actually see the inside of our rectangle. We're only going to see the border of it. And so with our border, we're going to give this a line width of 4. And then we're going to do 0x E 4434A for our color. It's going to be like this reddish color, and so we'll do 1 for our alpha, so then that way our border is visible. So then what we just want to do is let's add that property to our scene. And this is going to be a rectangle, so we'll copy that type. We'll go ahead and save. And now we'll see right away our new rectangle is added, and this will be our cursor so the player knows what they're currently updating. All right, so one last thing we're going to do for our option scene is we're just going to add a title to the top of our options menu here. So what we'll do is we'll come up to our create menu. Right before we create our menu options, let's go ahead and add a new text game object. So we're going to do this.add.text. And we'll go ahead and take our width. Let's divide by 2 so we're centered. We'll come down 40 pixels. We'll go ahead and use options for our text. And then we're going to use our options text style. Finally, let's go ahead and update our origin, and we'll just make sure it's centered, and we'll go ahead and save. And now if our scene refreshes, we should see our new title text on our scene. Alright, with that actually brings this video to an end. In our next video, we're going to continue working on our options scene. And so what we'll do is we'll add in our logic for allowing the player to select the menu color, and then we'll have that apply to the menu, so we'll change colors. And then we're going to go ahead and add in logic to have the player actually have input so they can select the different options, and we can toggle what is currently selected. So as a reminder, there's a link in the description of the video to the complete source code for this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video and hitting the bell icon to be notified when the next video in the series is released. For more great Phaser 3 content, please see the links on your screen now.